Hi, everyone. I'm excited to be here today to talk to you about some of the miracle stories that are happening right here in our own city, in our own state, every day. My name is Tony Coscia, and the title of our show is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Please note, this show is not about religion, and we're not trying to change anyone's religion, and we're not trying to get you to join any religion. It's just about miracle stories. I don't know of any religion on the planet that doesn't talk about miracles. That's why religions begin, because they have something that's telling them there's really a God. But we're not going to get into that. We're going to just talk about miracles and leave the decisions about all that up to you. So we don't care what religion you are. We just want to talk about miracles. If you are an atheist, I think you'll enjoy the program as well, although I can't guarantee you'll remain an atheist very long after you hear many convincing stories, coincidence kinds of stories about miracles. You can email me your own stories if you wish. We'll try to use all we can on the show. I can't guarantee we will, depending on volume and time, but you're welcome to send your stories on to us, and we will mention them when we can. You can send them to the following email address. But please notice that if we do use your story, we won't mention your name. We'll keep you anonymous. And we suggest that in your story, when you send it to us, don't use your correct name. That way anyone listening will not be able to figure out that it was you that sent the story in. The email address you can send your stories to is very easy to remember. It consists of 2 words and 3 numbers. The first word is Tony, spelled Tony, and the second word is and, spelled A-N-D, and the numbers are 777. So once again, the name is Tony and 777 at AOL.com. Well, let us begin. Hi, everyone. I have a pretty amazing coincidence miracle story to share today. It all started out by I was planning a 2-hour trip by car, 4 hours round trip for later in the afternoon, but I stopped for groceries early in the morning, and fortunately I did stop for groceries because I noticed my warning light on the dashboard. There was a crazy looking warning light which I never saw before, so I was frustrated because I had this trip planned and I had a warning light and didn't know what it meant. So I had to look in the glove compartment and figure out what it was about. And it was something about low pressure tires, which I heard from other people it could just be an error in the car's computers. Sometimes it says you have a problem with air pressure, but you really don't. But the only choice I had at the moment, I asked God what to do, and the obvious choice was rush over to the garage and get a mechanic to look at it and decide whether I had to cancel my afternoon trip, which was important, a very important trip. So that started out my day. Certainly frustrating, as I'm sure you can imagine, and you've had days like this too. So I was not a happy camper. And I wasn't sure that the mechanic was going to just take me, right in off the street without an appointment. But anyway, I reluctantly and frustratingly went over to the garage, and I was very blessed, actually, because I was inspired to go to the correct garage where they could handle me pretty soon. It was just a short wait. So I sat there waiting, and then they came back and told me that they found a nail, and they showed me the actual puncture mark on the tire and the nail that they found. And you could have pictured me on the high-speed highway, interstate highway, with a flat tire in the afternoon. You could picture what a disaster that would be, because the air would have come out of the tire while I was driving it on the highway. So that turned out to be a little miracle, and I sat down gratefully while I waited for them to squeeze me in line. They had other things to do, and they were going to take care of it as soon as possible. And the next thing that happens is another man comes in with another panic. He came in because his car was acting up, and he sits beside me, and he's sharing with me how stressed and frustrated he is with this problem he's having. So I told him why I was in there, and we kind of jokingly said, well, I guess we're both fortunate we got a place like this we could come to. And I just had an inspiration to hand him a card about our book and our radio show. And he was really very interested in it. He started asking questions about it, and he asked me, what's the book about? So I explained to him, and as you people who listen in every week, our book is about miracles, 100 miracle stories, but the thrust and the mission of the book is it explains to people how we can very easily have discussions with God, and we can hear God's inspirations as the saints have been doing for thousands of years now. And we can learn from the saints on how we can do this very simply. So I told him the first 45 minutes of reading my book will show you and explain to you how simple and easy it is to have discussions with God, at which point his jaw dropped and he said, "You won't believe what I'm going to tell you next." He said, "I was just thinking on the way over here, realizing I had a problem, had to get solved, and I was very perplexed about it, but I was thinking on the way over here, boy, it would really be great if I could just ask God what to do and ask God what's wrong with my car, and I'm trying to solve a couple of other problems, and I was thinking about, sincerely, how do you go about asking God, like a lot of people tell me they do, and getting answers? And here you are sitting here with a book that tells me that." So he was fascinated. He said, "I absolutely guarantee I'm going to be reading your book." So I gave him our website because he can go on that for free and listen for free. But that was a great experience for me. I mean, I'm forced to show up here, and then he's forced to show up here, and he's actually thinking about the topic and mission of our book, about how to talk to God and hear God as he comes in. So that was obviously an amazing miracle for both of us. And the other thing I should tell you is his name was a very biblical name. If I told you his name, you would recognize that it certainly is a name that's repeated in the Bible quite often. So I can't tell you his name because I have to protect his anonymity. That's what we promise about our show. So I don't want you to know who the man is without his permission. But I'll tell you, it's important in this whole story to know his name was very biblical. The next thing that happened was there was a woman sitting on my left side. He was on my right side. The woman on my left side had been listening in, and she heard the story, and she heard about the book, etc. And I was inspired after I finished talking to him. We were sitting there quiet for a moment, and I got inspired in my mind. I felt God wanted me to give a card to the lady on my left, who I would assume was hearing some of what we said. Well, she was delighted again because she said, "Yes, I did. I was listening in." And she said, "I'm so amazed because I'm sitting over here just finishing a book, and I was thinking as I got to the end of it that I was going to look into a book about spirituality and about, the saints' lives and how people had relationships with God in history. I was thinking about doing that as my next book yesterday because I was seeing that I was getting close to the end of the book. And here you are, you come in and you're talking exactly about the kind of book that I have in mind." So she said, "I'm really delighted, and I certainly will look into your website." And I told her she could get the book on Barnes & Noble or Amazon. And in case there's some of you listening today who don't know the title of the book's title is Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. Again, Tony's 50,000 Coincidence Miracles. And if you Google that, you can purchase the book from Amazon or Barnes & Noble. You'll learn a lot about the book. And I'll give you the website again now, too. Our website, because you can listen to the book for free, is spelled WCAT, that's WCAT, radio.com/miracles/ one more time, WCATradio.com/miracles/. And the thing about the woman on my left, her name is, again, obviously a biblical name, just like the first person I just told you about, which was a man. This was a woman. But her name is clearly in the Bible, unmistakably, so I can't tell you her name either. So far, I'm sitting there between two people with biblical names. And you may not believe the next thing I'm going to tell you, but it really happened. The next person that comes in, since I was on a roll giving out cards already, he didn't sit down very long. And I got up and went over because he was a little bit farther away. and I just offered him a card, and he could see by the card what it was about, and he was very grateful. And I found out before he left that his name also was a biblical name, but even more than just that, he had the same exact name as the first person that I had talked to. So there were two people with the same name, and both of them the same biblical name, and they had to come to the garage today for problems with their car. So after I got my bill and paid the bill and checked out, I left and I walked out toward my car. And as I walked out toward my car, there was another line outside of people waiting for emergencies on their car. It was quite a day. People were showing up with emergencies right and left without any appointment. And so they were waiting out there for quite a while, and they were going to be there for quite a while more because there were a lot of people inside waiting. But as I left, I saw this woman sitting close to the exit, and I was just inspired by God. Tony, give her a card as well. And at this point, I've given out so many cards there, I felt I didn't want to leave somebody out. So I walked over and I told her about the book and offered her a card, told her about the free website at wcatradio.com/miracles/. And she was delighted, and she started telling me a couple of the stories in her life, because I shared with her some aspects of the book, and I shared one of our miracles, and I told her what had just happened to me already there. I met two people with the same biblical name and somebody else with a biblical name, and I told her about the flat tire, etc., how God worked this all out. And she was flabbergasted too. She said, I also was thinking of getting a book today, so it's pretty amazing, and I was certainly going to be looking for a book along the order of what your book is. So she said, I'm fascinated, and I really believe that we're both here today as something destined by God to have happened. I'm also very happy to tell you that this particular woman was very accustomed to having conversations with God normally in her life for many, many years. So it wasn't any shock to her that there was such a book that talked about how she thought that was a great thing. She thought that often for a long time people should have a book that would take them through the steps. So we had a wonderful discussion. She shared a couple of her miracles in her life, some really big-time miracles, I must tell you, life-changing things. So let's reflect a little on what this day was looking like. All of the people I shared with you were rushed to this mechanics place. All of us show up. It's almost like God wrote a script for the day, and he had hired us actors to show up and produce a play or a movie. It was pretty obvious at the end of the period that I'm sharing with you that all of these people showed up. They all had biblical names, even the last woman I just mentioned to you. And I can't give you the names, or you'll know these people for sure. I'm sure if you heard their names and you know them, you'd recognize them. They're not very common names. So noticeably, God had set this all up, and he inspired each of us to say the kinds of things that we did. And this is proof again how God puts ideas, inspirations into our minds constantly. All of us, everybody listening right now, God is giving you ideas and inspirations constantly all day long. That's him knocking on the door of your brain, trying to give you some topics and things to think about him and about miracles and about what he'd like you to do, etc. So it felt like it was a script, and as I've explained it to you, I hope you see that it was, and everybody got blessed in the process. I certainly got blessed. I got a problem with my tire, but at the end of this whole period, I was able to evangelize 4 people and tell them about our great book that helps many, many people. Our book really helps people to have conversations with God all day long. God bless you all. I'll talk to you next week.